You know, for some period of time, I'd heard the terms unclaimed property. And I thought, well, maybe that's $4,000 or $5,000 a year where somebody's left money in a bank account and they've died, or they left something someplace else. But it's an awful lot of money. Tell us where it comes from, why it comes there, and what we do with it, and what we can do with it, and what we should do with it.
Well, what we have is a program. If somebody has a bank account and the money, they never claim it, or they don't realize that they have that money, what the Treasurer's Office does, and this could be a receivable with a business, this could be almost anything. It could be a security that somebody is holding. The state, the Treasurer's Office has a department called the Unclaimed Property Program. They go out, they will look for this particular money. They will do an audit of a business and determine if there's receivables, or there's anything that is really not belong to the business, and potentially there's an individual out there that it does belong to. The money comes into the Treasurer's Office. They have a computers, systems, and everything else, and they will publish a list that goes out, and everybody can take a look down the list. It's published in the newspaper and various other sources. If they're on the list, and they can put an application in to receive that money, and it goes from there. Now,
so they would get the money.
They would get the money, and they can actually come back later on if they don't find it, don't see their name at one particular time, and claim it at a later time. What happens is that after a period of time, the money that is with the state, that the state actually collects, goes into a fund, and that fund can be used to fund other state investments, projects, school items, just about anything that the legislature wants to. In 2009, we were able to transfer $50 million into the general fund.
Now, where'd that come from?
This is simply money that nobody claimed. Since nobody has claimed it, after a period of time, the state can then use that money. Now, if somebody comes back later and does claim the money, then the state has to appropriate that.
So there's no statute of limitations on that?
No. So somebody can come back. But what has happened, and one of the things that I think as an auditor, as a CPA, we look at all the time, there's been some problems. There was an audit that came out in April of 2010, here just recently, and what happened, they identified a number of different things that they thought were problems. One, the audits, they were only doing approximately 50% of the audits that they needed to do. Consequently, my take on that is how much more money could we have collected if we were doing it properly. And as a CPA doing audits, we look at the risk involved in what we're looking at. In other words, do we go out to a client that we know has no problems and waste our time, spend our time doing that, or do we go to somebody that we know that there's the potential of actually utilizing our time to a good manner? What happened there is they said that there was only 50% of the audits were done. They needed to look at some of the other states. The actual Legislative Council Bureau looked at 9 other states and said, hey, we've identified 9 things that need to be added. They also identified some security risks that we had that were not being, from a record-keeping standpoint, the payouts that the state was making did not match the internal items. They were also saying there were securities that needed to be sold that hadn't been sold. Just problems like that on a regular basis as an auditor I'm used to looking at, as a CPA I look at on a regular basis, and I understand the system and what needs to be done.
So, you know, when you're talking about getting $50 million, the potential may have been another $50 million.
Potentially, yes. And that's what we have to look at. The other thing that on occasion we have to go look at is how much time we're spending with any particular client or any particular audit, and say, okay, we're not finding anything, let's move on.
So this is a very productive area, and we need to make sure that we get all of the production out of it that we can.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Tomorrow, another subject.
Look forward to it.
Thank you.